Hello there, I'm the real creator, and this is my first video. I thought it could be fun to start my own art YouTube channel where I could post long-form art videos, so here we are. This is going to be a bit of a test run to see what it's like to make a video and see if the video will do well. So today I'm going to tell a story about the worst art teacher I've ever had. And you can enjoy a Speedpaint in the background or just listen while doing something else if that's what you like to do. I've had a fair amount of art teachers in the past, but I can confidently say that this one was the worst. This was in 6th grade of elementary school, and basically the system was, you have your normal class most of the day, but for a period you would get to go to a specialty class like gym, music, library, a few others. I think it used to be that the specialty class would depend on what day of the week it was, but for this particular year it had been changed, so you would go to one class for 2 weeks and then it would rotate. Also in this particular year, the engineering class had been replaced with the art, so we got an art teacher. I obviously can't say her real name, so I'm just gonna call her Miss D. At this point in time, I had gone into drawing a lot, so it seemed like an art class would be pretty fun. And, well, I wouldn't say Miss D was a mean teacher or a strict teacher, but she just wasn't a good teacher. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent to explain some extra context for this story. Basically, since 6th grade was the year when we learned all about ancient Egypt, all of the 6th grade classes would participate in this event called the Egyptian Funeral Walk. I don't know if this was a thing that other schools would do or if it was exclusive to my area, but the gist of it was that everyone would dress up like ancient Egyptians and act out a funeral scene where a pharaoh had just died. Everyone would get their own role to play, and they would march around the halls carrying a coffin, pretending to mourn this dead pharaoh, and the rest of the school would come out to watch. According to my older brother, who also did this in his 6th grade year, one kid would get the special role where they could be the mummy to be carried around in the coffin, but apparently somewhere along the way this was changed, so they had fake mummies when I did it. But back to Miss D. That year, this new art teacher had come into the school with a bright idea. She decided that it would be great if we could turn the Egyptian funeral walk into a musical. I don't know what the point of this decision was. Apparently, at Missy's old school, they also did it as a musical, so she wanted to carry that element over to our school. And, musicals can be fun to perform sometimes, but this Egypt thing wasn't really a proper musical. It was more so we just had to go up and stand on the stage and sing a variety of cheesy songs about ancient Egypt with maybe a few hand motions here and there. I suppose it was a bit more like a concert, except none of us had musical training, so it wasn't really the kind of thing that was fun to perform. Probably wasn't very fun to watch either. Reflecting back on it now, I feel like the school had a bit of a weird obsession with these kinds of musical performances. We would always have a Halloween sing, a Christmas sing, a musical review, a big dance performance at the end of the year, etc. So yeah, why not add a musical about Egypt into the mix? So this new performance meant that basically for the first half of the year, we never actually did any art in art class. We were too busy trying to learn the lyrics to all the songs and rehearse them and whatnot. I guess music is technically another form of art, but, when you participate in an art class, you expect to learn how to make physical art. And also, we literally had a separate music class as a specialty, so I really don't know what the point of all this was. The only physical art that I remember actually making in that art class for a big chunk of the year was a couple decorative posters for the performance. I remember the papers were folded in such a way that they were meant to look like pillars if you put them upright, but when they hung them up, they just did it like they were regular posters, which made it look a little goofy. Oh yeah, and we also wrote our names in ancient hieroglyphics. That was the extent of the art that we made. I have a memory of Misty saying something along the lines of how all the kids in the younger grades, like 1st and 2nd graders, would be so excited seeing the musical and looking forward to when they would get to participate. And, if you think the younger kids are gonna be excited about this, why not make them do it? Because I can guarantee, out of all the kids in an elementary school, 6th graders are going to be the least enthusiastic about having to go up and sing a song about how amazing King Tut was. Speaking of King Tut, as a part of this performance, in between the songs, a couple of kids would go up at a time to deliver a few lines about whatever topic the song was about, and I had to do one for King Tut. It was some cringy line about how famous and awesome he was, but I swear I was the only kid who actually raised their voice when I spoke into that microphone. Everyone else just kind of mumbled theirs, though I suppose I could kind of understand why. Some of those lines were pretty cringy. So anyways, eventually the day came. We did our funeral march through the halls and went up onto the stage that the entire school and a bunch of parents would be forced to watch and experience 6th graders sing, which I'm sure they were very excited about. I don't remember anything particular about the performance itself because everything actually went fairly well. But afterwards, now that whole thing could finally be over, there were still a few months left in the school year, so maybe the art teacher could actually, teach us art, you know? You'd expect that from an art teacher, funnily enough. But she didn't really do that. Misty just kind of showed us step by step how to draw videos from YouTube, and not like the useful ones that show you a variety of art techniques and why they matter, but just first draw this line, then draw this line, which is the worst way to learn art because you aren't taught why or how you draw any of what you draw, and you aren't taught how those techniques could be applied outside of that specific tutorial. So yeah, those weren't particularly helpful. Although for St. Patrick's Day, we did watch this one video on how to draw the Lucky Charms version of Loki that they made to advertise the Loki show, aka Loki Charms, and that was actually an art piece that I cherished for a very long time until something spilled on it and it got ruined. But anyways, I remember that Misty showed us tutorials on how to draw realistic eyes and noses and lips and whatnot, which, it's cool to be able to draw those things realistically, but she also didn't show us anything about proper face proportions. After we watched all the videos on facial features, Misty was like, alright class, now we get to put it all together and make self-portraits. And of course, all the portraits look super ugly because she didn't teach us how to actually place those features on a face. For me in particular, at that point in time, I drew in this very cartoonish style with huge eyes, so when you hand the 6th grader who draws in Disney anime proportions tutorials on how to draw realistic eyes, you get nightmare fuel. So, that was not the best period of art for me. Perhaps the dumbest part about all of this is that at the end of the year, Misty ended up leaving. From what I remember, she wanted a full-time job and she could only have a part-time job if she stayed at the school, so that would be her first and last year of teaching there. I also left the school after that because I moved up to middle school, but according to my younger siblings, the art specialty was later replaced with drama. Also, they never did the Egyptian musical thing ever again. That was something that my grade and my grade alone had to endure. So much for the younger kids looking forward to that. The one thing that Misty taught us that ever actually proved to be useful to me was the fact that you could blend graphite with your finger. I admit, I did use that for a while afterwards, although it would have been nice if she mentioned that Tortolans exist and you don't have to get your hands all covered in graphite just to blend part of your drawing, but yeah. So that was probably the worst art teacher I ever had. I know as far as teachers go, it probably could have been a lot worse, but still, I barely learned anything from that class. When I entered 7th grade, I discovered the real art teacher, YouTube tutorials I could access on my Chromebook, which taught me a lot. Then again, that was also the point in time when I entered the phase as mandatory for every artist to complete, trying to copy anime. So, you win some, you lose some, I guess. Looking back at my elementary school years, I probably have plenty of other stories I could tell about the variety of performances that we had to do. I was actually a part of the musical review I mentioned earlier, but I'm just going to keep it simple for a first video and end off there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you back next time. Maybe.